Wow.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Rolling Over the Hill here on our Live to Roll channel. I'm Bobby Rohan. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic, and I am having my co-host today, not my normal co-host, and wish you well, Bob, but Luis, who's been filling in when Bob or I can't make it. So, Luis, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great. My name's Luis, of course. I've been injured for 43 years. I'm an L3, L4, incomplete, and I'm a walker and a roller. So I both walk and roll depending on what my needs are. Um, we have a new guest here today, Michael. And Bobby, you want to do the introduction for Michael?
Yeah. So, Michael, thank you for joining us, and I'll have you introduce yourself. But we met Michael a few weeks ago on our channel. He was putting in some interesting comments, and I looked him up. And hearing 45 years, I'm like, perfect for rolling over the hill for us old guys that are getting up there in the age of not only age of just your body, but age of your disability, and that takes a toll on us. So I thought let's bring on Michael. So, Michael, how's it going?
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, please.
Good. Well, thanks for the invitation, first off, Robert. And yeah, my name is Mike Roche. I'm in Syracuse, New York, so I'm way out on the East Coast. And I had a spinal cord injury in 1978, so that'll be 45 years ago next week. C5, 6, quadriplegic. I was wrestling in gym class and just got flipped over the wrong way and hit the wrestling mat, went numb, and as many of you know, the rest is history, surgery, try and repair your neck structure best as possible, and then after all the complications that go along with it, then rehab for a while. And back then in the dark ages, they took a lot more time as opposed to now.
Did you get
You
the
guys,
6 month?
I was 2 months dealing with. I was on a striker frame and a circle electric bed, if you know what those are,
Yeah.
the big hamster wheel bed, and between those two, and then 7 months in rehab. It was, really a long time to be in the hospital. So 9 months total. Um, Probably wasn't necessary. I think it was kind of the doctor's scheduling too. Like his winter vacation in Florida started then in February when I got out of the hospital.
And did you go
But
to any type of, known rehab, small rehab, big rehab? Did they have many
uh,
spinal cord?
pretty small. I had the choice to go down towards New York City. It might be called Havistraw Rehab Center. I'm not sure, but but I stayed locally. I didn't want to leave my family, so I
Yeah.
just went at the local, um, you know, New York State, teaching hospital, and so I did my rehab locally. It was on a small rehab floor, and it was really basic, getting in and out of bed, getting dressed, leg bag stuff, and then you do the real learning when you get out of the hospital and have to deal with the world.
Yeah, that life after rehab for
Yeah,
sure. So
yeah,
16, what was that like? Did you go back to high school? Um, what was
yeah.
it
It
like
was. It was.
doing that?
Yep. I was 16, so and it was in May when I got hurt. So they just passed me for 10th grade, and then I started getting tutored in the hospital by the same school. Yeah, I went to Catholic school, and they were really good about it. They sent teachers up a couple 3 days a week, and I did what I could in the hospital, and then as soon as I went home from rehab, it was in the middle of winter, freezing out. I was stuck home, just my mother and I, so I couldn't get back to school fast enough, and so I went back to school, and thankfully I finished with my class, so that worked out really
Nice.
well, and
Okay,
and they
nice.
were
So
really good about it.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, go ahead.
you actually went back into the high school that you were going to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They,
Great.
they there was a step to get in, but they put some black top down nicely to even that up, so I had a way in. Nurse's office helped with my leg bag, that sort of thing, and the school district I live in provided. I rode on the little bus, to go to school, and
Right.
but they got me there and did the trick, and yeah, they were really accommodating, and some of the teachers were good and were really good, and the students were great too. Once they got over that initial, oh my God, he's back kind of thing, then I
Hmm.
just became part of the scenery like everybody else. So I got to give them a lot of credit in that way, and I'll take some of the credit myself too because I had to put myself out there and get
Mhm.
help myself get accepted by the rest of the students, but it worked out well.
Michael, when you first went back to school, what was your wheelchair? Did you have like a stainless brand or an E&J or
Yeah.
what kind of wheelchair did you go
Yeah.
back to school in back then?
E and J. Oh, the good old
E&J?
Everest and Jennings. I was in a manual wheelchair then
Mm-hmm.
with the rubber coated push rims.
Oh
Did
yeah.
it have
They
the
had little.
projections on it? Do you remember the
These didn't.
projection?
I finally did. I wanted to be. You know how we often go through the process of I want to be as quote unquote normal as possible. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to do the projections, but then I realized you can really get some torque with the projections, and then like
Mm-hmm.
some hill climbers, some of the things that let your wheels roll forward but not backwards, and
Yep.
those sort of things, and then eventually, finally, when Everest and Jennings, boy, those things were tanks, but
Yep.
and then finally, Quickie came out as a
Yep.
brand, and they
Yeah.
were just so much beyond the old E and J chairs, and
Yeah.
lightweight. They look better, and they more adjustable. Everything.
That good old quickie GP, that first one.
Yep.
Yeah. And I started
Yeah.
out in a Quickie manual chair, and then I finally got an Everson Jennings electric wheelchair. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you remember those, the kind that used to hum when they would move along, they had the sound to them, and
Did it have a belt
that
drive? Did
yes,
it have the belts on it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and which would come off if you got snow underneath the belt.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
but yeah, all those old war horses remember all these old products. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the E and J, and but again, the one thing about those chairs is you kind of knew what was going to go wrong with them, and you could
Yeah.
anticipate it once you learned about it. And so keeping an eye on the belts and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, did that, and then finally got enough financial resources to get my own transportation, which, as you guys
Mm-hmm.
know, is just huge.
huge.
Um, and learn, got my driver's license and all. So, and that is just, so liberating, as everybody knows in our situation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a full size van, minivan?
Yeah, I always did have full size vans.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, living
my
out there.
first one was an '83 that I could drive, a Ford, and then an '88, and then a '95, and then a '99, and then I finally got a minivan a few years ago. And let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you, you guys might relate to this. Going from a full size Ford van to a Chrysler Pacifica was claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you probably felt
Yeah,
really low to the ground and everything.
low to the ground. I felt like I couldn't spread out. I was like confined. But after a couple of months, man, I'll tell you, I love the thing. It's like a
And
sports car.
and why
Those
did you
Ford
switch after all those
Econoline.
years?
Yeah. I
I'm
was going to
sorry,
say the
guys.
Ford Econoline vans were huge.
Yeah, they were huge. they lend themselves pretty well to being adapted, and uh, and but they discontinued the Ford Econolines, so it was time to
Yeah.
look around, and finally, when Chrysler redid the Pacifica, and I think it was in 2016 or 17, finally one came out from Braun with a 10-inch lowered floor, and because I
Mhm.
did, I didn't need all that headroom, and I got that, and thankfully regular manual hand controls, and the steering
Mhm.
was just easy enough as well, so I didn't need to have any power adaptation to the steering system, and that's as a lot of money
Yeah.
saved right there.
Yeah, because
So
I'm my first van had power assist and it had the max, and I can't get away from it now. As much
yeah,
as the last two vans, they're like, just try it. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm going to try it because I don't want to spend that money. And going around doing my left turn, it's like, mm, my comfort level's not there because you guys, it's kind of one of those things. If you start using a power chair from day one, it's hard to use a manual chair. After a couple of years of using a power chair. And I think that's my excuse for using, the power steering and braking because, I started off that way and I can't get away from it as much as I want to because of the money.
yeah.
I have a question for both of you. As quads, um, in the different vehicles that you've had over the years, have you noticed the difference between hydraulic power steering or electric power steering? And do you have a preference?
I've
Um,
always had both eyes, so I don't know the difference. Maybe you do, Michael.
I think I know what you're talking about, Luis. With the Fords, I had reduced effort hydraulic steering and
Hmm.
zero effort both, and then with the newer vehicle, it's electric, so it's a lot easier, at least for me, than
Hmm.
a factory hydraulic would be, say a Ford van. So with the newer vehicles with the electric steering, um,
Hmm.
it's definitely geared towards easier steering effort than the old big trucks. So,
Yeah.
once I got in it and tried it and realized, like, good, I can save myself five or $10,000 by not having to send it away and have reduced effort or zero effort steering put in.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's how expensive it is.
It
Yeah.
is.
But how about you, Luis? With that, have you experienced both?
I have experienced both. However, I do drive a little differently. I don't actually use hand controls. My rec therapist in rehab, he said, "You have hip flexors. Why aren't they teaching you how to use your hip flexor to drive with?" So he taught me himself while I was in rehab. So I had the regular driver's education where I learned to use hand controls. And then I had it a second time with the rec therapist where he taught me how to use my hip flexor to drive with. And I still drive that way today.
Was that
Yeah,
Minnebrooks?
nice.
What was his name?
That was Jeff Minnebreaker, yes.
Yeah, Breaker.
Uh,
Yeah.
Michael, if you don't know, Jeff Minnebreaker was a recreational therapist at Rancho Los Amigos Rehabilitation Center, and him and a group of friends were the ones who developed the Quadra wheelchair, which was just before Quickie.
Right, I
And I,
had one.
yeah, and but the Quadra, he built me my first wheelchair, so I didn't have an E and J or a stainless. Right out of the gate, I had a Quadra wheelchair to start with,
Yeah,
so it was pretty awesome.
yeah, they were nice chairs, and it's too
Remember
bad they
the?
didn't stay in business.
Do you remember they had the square tubing instead
Yeah,
of round?
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah. And a million places to put your axle pin in, where you can your
yeah.
center of gravity and bucket. So had all those options. It was amazing.
yeah,
That big
yeah.
So
plate
you
with
get
all the holes in it.
yeah. So you get to driving and everything. I take it you went did you go to college, work wise? What did you do with, your next
Yeah, that's
years?
that's a it's quite the chronology. Um, got out of rehab, went back to high school, graduated with my class, and then I started volunteering. You got to remember this is 1980 at this time,
Mhm.
still back in the dark ages in terms of access, even how people looked at you in public, things like that. And so uh, there was a startup agency locally here called Arise. It's an acronym for something else, but it's an Independent Living Center, which
Mm-hmm.
is you might be familiar with that model. Started in Berkeley, California, and moved its way across the country, like so many things have. Um, where and I started volunteering at that place, and then I was offered a position there as a peer counselor to, you know, uh, run support groups and individual counseling. So right out of high school, I got involved with that and got into the advocacy for people with disabilities, for accessible public transportation and more accessible buildings, more curb cuts across town, things like that, and just building codes, that sort of thing. So I didn't do college till like I was about 30, and
Oh, yeah.
so but I learned more working at the Independent Living Center than I did in college.
Yeah,
College
I
was
can
just
see.
for fun.
Yeah, that's just for books and just to get a piece of paper to show somebody else.
Yeah, and also I was fortunate enough. I got hurt in 1978, and I'm one of those fortunate guys that had a legal avenue to go down financially, and got a decent settlement out of it. So and not everybody, as gets
Mhm.
that option, and
Yeah.
I could have very well lost. So I am very much appreciative of what it's like not to be able to say, I think I'll buy myself a new cushion, or I think I'll get a new chair, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in your control at that point. And
Mhm.
so I was very liberated in that sense. And I didn't start driving until 1983. I got my license when I was 19, but then had no van that I could drive. I just
Yeah.
learned at
Mm-hmm.
a place in Rochester, New York, and then it was like waiting till I had some money. It took about $35,000 to get my first van that I could drive back then. Which
Yeah.
sounds cheap now, doesn't
Cheap now,
It
yeah.
does.
Give me one for
it?
35, brand new.
Yeah. Brand new Ford van, 10 grand for the van, 25 grand for all the hand controls, which were pneumatic hand controls at that time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, there was a company called Target Industries. I think they were out of Connecticut, and they made this pneumatic system for the gas and brake, and it worked really well. And
Mm-hmm.
but it costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So then you go to college, and what'd you get your degree in, and did you use your
yeah.
degree?
Um, well, I had already become a homeowner. I was working with the Rise, so I went to college really just for personal enrichment, and I got involved in broadcasting, in classes there, in both television and radio broadcasting, and never really. I didn't finish the degree. I did all the TV and radio classes, and some journalism and English and all that. Once I realized that I wasn't going to be working as a DJ from midnight to 6 at some radio station, that I kind of like, well, I'm not going to spend any more money here at the place. But I made some good contacts there. Learned a lot about the concept of video production and audio production, and back then you had to splice the audio tape with a razor blade.
Yeah.
So as as a quadriplegic, that was tricky, but it was doable. Got it done.
So, can I put you on the spot, Michael?
Sure,
And
sure.
can I ask you for you to do your best radio voice? What do you got
Let's
for
see.
it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's see. Um, oh, my Ron Radio, huh? Um,
Yeah.
all right, everybody. It's 6:30 on the not 75 degrees out there on your drive time home, and I don't know what to say. Uh,
That's okay.
you know, news and weather together in on the fives coming up. But yeah, thankfully I've got good pipes, for the voice, and you
Yeah,
know how that goes too. For us guys with upper body paralysis, your lung strength is so much,
exactly.
and I've always been blessed with very, very strong lungs, even before my injury. So, um, you know,
Yeah.
and you
Well,
know how
and
that
that's
is,
a
but
great point. When you have an injury like this, keeping your lungs healthy is really important.
yeah,
Especially as a quad, but for any of us, being able to breathe and speak and push and breathe at the same time. It's good for
right,
your endurance, good for your health.
Yeah,
yeah,
I was not blessed with good lungs before my injury. I was, asthmatic uh, up until about 14. Started growing out of it when I got into sports, and I was an all-American swimmer, and then cyclist and runner. And somehow I was just able to overcome a lot of my asthma, and then, but it was still there. I just didn't have the biggest lung capacity, and so when I got hurt, I mean, they had all the equipment in there ready to splice me open for a ventilator, and they're like, he's
Mhm.
holding on just barely, and I'm like, no, don't do it, don't do it. And they kept just saying, if you drop a couple numbers down, we're going to do it. And I just kept working on my lungs, and then since my accident, it's has been a problem with bronchitis, pneumonia, and just
Mhm.
other little things. So it's tough if you don't have a good start. So that's great that you had a good start, Michael.
yeah. And
Michael,
like you,
did you wear a vent or anything at all
thankfully,
early
no.
on?
I never had to be trached. I don't know why or how not. I'm not, because that first few days in the hospital was just a blur. Um,
Hmm.
I just I woke up in intensive care. I was vented, but just down through my mouth. And
Hmm.
once they pulled that out, I was able to breathe okay. So it never needed to get a trach. And then but I did get a blood clot in my lung and a collapsed lung on my left side,
Hmm.
and so that lung has always been a little weaker than the other uh, throughout the whole time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you guys mentioned, pneumonia would be something that would happen from time to time, and along came the pneumonia vaccine there. I don't know if you guys get that or not. You
Yeah,
get
I've
it
had
every
it.
so many years or so. And for
Hmm.
Every
me, that's worked out really well.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's a one-time thing. Now it's take
Is
your
it?
last one is what my doctor said. This is your last one because it used to be
Yeah.
every 5 or 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. But now
I
it's
think so.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
last year I got my last one, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
So
have
how?
had that, pneumonia, but thankfully it was only like a really bad cold. I was still able to get up and all that. But you know how it is. You just coughing, and our coughs just aren't as strong, even if we have good lungs, aren't as strong as somebody who has all the muscles to work with. So,
Yeah,
that shot came in really handy.
That's where a pair like me comes in handy. I've had more than enough quad friends who are like, "Can you pat me on the back?" You know, go ahead,
Right?
cough it up. Go, go.
there you go. Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
Yeah.
Or my wife hates when I'm coughing and I start, doing this. She's like, "Stop doing that." I'm like, "Well, it's how I get my cough up." But so
Yeah. We all figure out something, don't we, on
yeah,
how to give ourselves leverage with our cough.
Yeah.
Either bending over forward or something like that, just to get that little more pressure behind it. And
Hmm.
so, but I've been pretty fortunate, and I was also lucky. You guys know of Craig Hospital in Denver.
yeah,
Yes.
My
yeah,
physical therapist here she had just come from Craig, so she had all that Craig expertise way back then when I was in rehab, and she was like a drill sergeant in physical therapy. So she really pushed and pushed and pushed, and I benefit greatly from it.
Yeah, that probably was a big help. That and kind of lucky that that just happened to coincide that you got somebody that knew spinal cord, because a lot of these smaller rehabs they get maybe a few days of spinal cord in their PT school, and that's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see that even in regular hospitals when you go to the emergency room and you're saying I'm having a problem, my blood pressure's up, or you're having some AD, and the emergency room, they don't know what autonomic dysreflexia is, so you very quickly have to give them a lesson in it, and they typically don't want to listen to it.
No, they don't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sons are both emergency room nurses, and even though I don't get AD myself, I made sure that both my sons know what AD is, how to watch for the signs, and check for it. You know, and when they both went to nursing school, they were like, "How do you know about that?" Well, our father's a spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
Uh,
That'll
so
teach
the
you. Um,
yes, so it's important that we teach people, and like I tell everybody I meet, if you get AD, carry something in your pocket, have something bookmarked on your phone, wear a little medical alert bracelet or necklace says I get autonomic dysreflexia, so that if they see it in the emergency room, they'll look it up.
Well, and the
right.
first thing, um, for anybody that doesn't know, that we have AD cards, Shawn. I think Shawn, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but we can send you out AD cards, and you can give that card to your ER doctor or nurse that's there. Or what I do is I look it up, I Google it now, because usually you have your phone when you're in the ER. I'm like, here, read all about it, and they're like, they come back and they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So but
Yeah.
we have a couple people in our chat before we move on. But I wanted our active quad Steve. Mine's right here, man, to work on my lungs. So I did have it on my desk as well too, Steve. We got Hector. Hit us up, Hector, on Instagram if you want to discuss that course. We got active quad in the house. Andrew, always. Dominic, what's up? Miss you, bud. Great talking to you the other day. Relax,
Tom.
everyone. Yeah. So uh, so tell us about 45 years in a chair, almost.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your high points and maybe some of your low points.
Well, a lot of high points and a lot of low points over that time.
Mhm.
You know, and wow, that's a big question. Um, High points. One I can give you an example of. In 2016, up in the Adirondack Mountains, I went camping with a couple of family members and a couple of my caregivers who were nice enough to come up, and we got lean-tos to sleep in, right in the middle of the Adirondack Mountains in summer, and slept out. You know, I brought a little hotel cot, brought my Hoyer lift, Hoyer type lift, and
Mhm.
slept out under the stars in the lean-to, listening to the loons at night. I mean, that was almost a religious experience, being out in the woods like that, hoping a bear would not come along. That that was a real high point. I loved every minute of it, even though it was really hard. It got cold at night, that sort of thing. So those kind of things, though, those achievements that other people might take a little more for granted, that to go really minimalist camping was a big deal for me, and to do it only 6 7 years ago. Um, and then low points, probably one time having a skin ulcer on my
Mhm.
butt. Way that was way back, only a year or two after my injury, when the cushion technology wasn't as good, and so thankfully that healed up, and and it's been good ever since. Knock on wood, because how that's everything. Um, but that was a big time bummer. Um, you know, God, getting your first set of wheels, to drive, getting on the road driving. I mean, that just feels. I'm sure you both know that feeling of liberty, that you just get behind the wheel and you're equal
Mhm.
now with everybody on the road. Once you get once you get a feel for it, and that
That
to
freedom,
this
that
day,
independence,
uh
freedom and independence.
oh, it's terrific. Autonomy, having that personal autonomy to just go when you want to. And I'm just like a 16-year-old still. But getting behind the wheel of the car, a nice sunny day with the music going, I become a teenager listening to the Stones and Zeppelin and Frampton and everything else. That's me.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
It's
And
funny you
some
mentioned Frampton. I've got a Frampton's latest CD in my car, and I may be going to see Frampton in a couple of months.
which CD is it?
Frampton is having a little bit of Alzheimer's, a little dementia in his older age.
yeah, that's what I
So the
thought.
Hmm.
name of his latest album is I Can't Remember the Words.
Peter Frampton Forgets the Words.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got that album, and
it's
it's a
great.
terrific album. And
Yeah,
he's put out some great stuff since like 2010. And
yeah.
the last concert I went to see here was Peter Frampton in 2019. He did all the stuff you'd want to hear. And what's his name? Uh, the son of the Led Zeppelin drummer opened up for Peter Frampton. So I mean, it was
Um,
like Led Zeppelin and Peter Frampton, and um, you know what I mean.
I know who you're talking
And then
about. Yeah,
Jeez.
and also in July 30th, probably the same tour. Frampton is coming here again, and I got tickets for that. So it's
yeah.
nice to go after the pandemic to be able to get to see Frampton one more time.
I
But he
I
can
got to say
still
this
kill.
real quick. The first time I saw Frampton, I was 15 years old,
Wow.
1975, at the Wonderland Ballroom in San Francisco. And that's one of the three locations where they recorded for Frampton Comes Alive.
Comes
No.
alive.
And
Wow.
I saw him in 2000, and I remember going, he's not going to be touring much longer, so get out there and let's make sure we see it. And saw it in a small venue, was amazing, and I'm like, good. I saw him before he's going to put it up, and he's still rocking. That
He's
is
still
awesome.
going.
Yeah,
Still got it. He can still sing too, and
Yeah.
but he kills the guitar still. You know, those fingers are fast as
Yeah,
ever.
his
So
hand skills are just stunning.
yeah,
You don't think of somebody at that age still being able to do what he does on the guitar.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
It probably it's natural now. It just probably doesn't even have to think about it.
right.
Yeah.
And
Smooth,
that's another thing. And talk about high points and low points. Is
Mhm.
music has always been a big part of my life, and probably you guys as well. Because we
Hmm.
were teenagers, music was everything. Your stereo was everything,
Oh,
and so Frampton Comes Alive, Led Zeppelin, the Stones. Thankfully, I've seen Stones a couple times, and Pink Floyd and all them, um, and just you know, music when you driving along in the car and listening to a song that just hits you in the soul, and it's kind of transcendent, and I really those are great high points for me.
Michael, speaking of music, um, what has your experience been as a wheelchair user going to concerts, live
the
venue?
venue, out there.
For the most part, good.
Yeah.
Pretty good,
Good for the
no
most
issues.
part.
Hmm.
A couple issues here and there. Um, yeah, again, say back in the 1980s, I remember going to see Julian Lennon, John Lennon's son, and
Mhm.
at a local theater, which was really old, and they had to sit in the aisle, and the fire marshal came along. You can't sit here, I'm like, come
Oh
on, just give
my.
me a few more minutes. The guy's just doing his job, but it was still fun. Um, I've tried to let that stuff roll off my back whenever I
Yeah.
can, as opposed to getting bothered by it. And
Yeah.
as time has gone by, though, and new facilities get built, they're just built so much more inclusively in terms of wheelchair access. Um,
Yeah.
you just, it's like with the house. Fortunately, I was able to kind of design the house, and you would never know it was a wheelchair house by looking at
Mhm.
it. Looks like any other, but it just doesn't have a step, and all the things that make it accessible, and it doesn't look institutional. And I think the same way has come along with stadiums and different facilities where the
Mhm.
wheelchair access now, since the ADA is just included, and it's
Yeah.
really just improved it for all of us.
Yeah. And it has its quirks and it's getting better. But, the one thing you said a good thing, you let it roll off your back. And,
Yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes I hear on support groups that where people made you made a big deal and it ruined your night. And where I've always been that same way, Mike, let it roll off my back. Let the evening just come to me. And I'm going to have so much more fun than a fight if I go to the ticket guy and I want my money back. And, it just ruins the night. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
find me a spot that's great for me. And they're like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me find you a spot, and it makes the evening much more enjoyable if you let it roll off your back.
Honey works better than salt.
right. Although there was one time when myself and two other guys, there's always one time uh,
Yeah,
that we hit our kind of Rosa Parks moment. You guys have heard of the Carrier Dome here in Syracuse where they play basketball and
yeah,
football. Um, not the best wheelchair access when it was built. And I was there in 1986, I think it was, and it was sold out and couldn't, the wheelchair section was full. So we went down to where the ambulance goes into the field and stuff, pushed the
Hmm.
button to the big door, and went in and told the guard we could be there. And then when he said, "You guys aren't supposed to be here," we were like, "Well, we're here and we're not leaving until you find us a place to see the game." So they actually caved and let us sit there, even go back and forth and get beers and stuff, as long as we didn't all leave at once. And
Yeah.
they weren't going to arrest us in front of 45,000 people, So I wasn't too worried about it, and I was willing to get arrested, but it didn't happen,
Yeah.
you know.
that's great.
And thankfully that's improved a lot now, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
out here where Bobby and I live, we have the Rose Bowl where every New Year's Day, and the Rose Bowl's what, Bobby, 106, 120 years old or something,
oh,
and
easily, yeah,
the
65,000.
accessibility isn't real great even today. So a
yeah,
lot of times when we do, games or something there at the Rose Bowl, they actually let us, just like you said, we go down the ramp where the teams and the service trucks and come in and out of the stadium. Yeah,
right.
I
that,
do I do have a funny story. I was at the Rose Bowl game. SC was playing, and the guy goes, I got you set up. You're right down on the field, not on the field, but the lowest handicap spot right there, right behind the USC bench. And we were like, it's gonna be awesome. Till USC piles in the team, and now we couldn't see anything. And we said to the guy like, hey, this sucks. And he goes, well, there's a spot over there. Looks awesome spot, but it's across the way. And I'm like, yeah, but then we have to go all the way up. He goes, just cut through the field right here. I was in the end zone as the USC is on the other side of the end zone, ready to score or something. And I'm in the end zone going, I can't believe I'm in the middle of the field kind of. And we just roll and quads on grass. And I'm like, my buddy who's a parapet for me kind of. And we get to the other side and get up to a great seat. But I just still remember to this day being on the field during a Rose Bowl game in the end zone.
that is one of the
Yeah,
things about being in a chair and you're at a game or a concert or something, and everybody cheers and stands up, and all you can see is assholes and elbows. It happens. What are you
Yeah,
going
right.
to do?
It's
but it also gets you in a lot of places you never thought. Like one time we were
Yeah.
at San Diego football, Monday night football game, and I just made a joke like, "Oh, I'm going to go in the locker room," and I did. Nobody stopped me. And
Yeah.
next thing I know, I run into Steve Young that's ready to do an interview, and I'm just like, well, I'm not supposed to be, I turned out and, jetted the other way before somebody said something, but it was just like, everyone's like, you just ran into Steve Young. I'm like, I know, just these, going backstage helps, every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at a Stones concert here, and I needed to use the facilities, and I was asking the usher, let me go back into the locker rooms instead of going all the way upstairs again to use the bathroom. And he's like, "Well, Mick Jagger's in there changing right now." I'm like, "Come on."
Yeah.
And he's like, he almost let me in, but he's like, "Nah, you can't let you." I'm like, "Damn it! I could have got to meet Mick Jagger, in the
Yeah.
bathroom."
That's great.
But it's come. You have to. I put it in perspective compared to 40, 45 years ago, and the people that came before us, from
Yeah.
Vietnam and World War II and stuff, who didn't have nearly the things we have.
The days of Crip Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they had no options, and
Yeah.
it's really a lot of progress that's been made. So I look at it very much a half cup is half full in terms of the accessibility of our world today. It's just so much better than 20, 30 years ago, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's really good.
And I think
It
that's
has
the
changed.
great thing that we point out, with us guys that have been aging, that seeing what it was like back then and what it is now, which is great. It's not what we thought in the sense of walking, where I
Right,
remember like, don't worry, tap on the shoulder. You're going to be walking in 5 years. Technology is right
right,
there. You're,
yeah,
okay, cool. 5 years, I can deal with that. And, here it is 35 years, 34 years later. And, for you guys too. And, but a lot of other things have come along with technology and just saying, I don't want to say it out loud, but, hey, Alexa, turn on my TV, and your TV turns on, and lights turn off. And, it's nice to lay in bed, and, the more variety of nurses these days. And even though that's still hard, I don't know if you deal with that, Mike, and or not,
yeah,
dealing with the nurses and how much care you need. But it's come a long way that I know I can go to most restaurants and theaters and concerts and don't have to worry for the most part.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You know, with the technology, like you mentioned, either the Apple or the other system. I've
Hmm.
got both of them, so it's kind of like, hey, so and so, turn on the bedroom light, turn on the fan, the
Yeah.
ceiling fan, make the light green. All that stuff. That was all fantasy 35, 40 years ago, and
And
now
it was
Exactly.
all
that's
it was
common,
all $10,000 too.
right?
Yeah.
and and also with the whole, you're going to be walking in 5 years. That, for me personally, that's something that I never held my head on too much. I would
Yeah.
hear it and let it go in one ear and out the other. I was like, great, let me know when you have it ready, and I'll get in line. But 5 years, every 5 years, it's always 5 more years, 5 more years, and now then it was stem cells and things like that. And
Yeah.
we're still not there yet. I don't know if they'll ever get there. Maybe they will, but I just don't look at it as anything that I'm ever going to really benefit from in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
thankfully never did look at it that way, because otherwise we'd spend our lives waiting for something, as opposed to living our lives and enjoying our lives as we are. That's my
Exactly.
outlook.
It's something I'll bring this up, and it's a little bit different that I didn't worry about it forever, until recently. I've had to deal with some health issues the last 2 years. And, it's where I've been getting really close with my brother because my parents are aging and we have to do a lot for them. And so my brother and I are close. And it's the first time that, I started thinking like, gosh darn it, I wish I can ride mountain bikes with him. I used to be a cyclist, and
Mm.
I wish I can do that. I want to ride with him one day, and it's never going to happen. And I know that, but I've never wished, that I can do my sports again until just recently. And, it's just crazy that I'm thinking, ah, you know, I just one day ride with my bro and, or hang out and, and do something with my best friend on a normal way that we used to, 35 years ago when we rode together or ran together. So I still, I'm okay with it. I know that it's not going to happen in our time. I hope it does happen one day.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
Bobby,
funny you
have you ever?
mentioned. Go, go
I
ahead.
was going
Go
to
ahead,
say,
Luis.
have you used a hand cycle at all? I know with Triumph, we have a lot available. Have you
Yeah,
ridden with maybe your brother riding a bike and you on a
yeah,
hand
I
cycle?
have the hand cycle right there. So he'll be down next week and we'll be able to. It's not the same. It's not mountain biking and not the
Yeah,
dirt trails that he shows me and sends me videos on, and where I get like all like, oh, I want to be on that trail, but and it's okay. It's it
we got to get you a Lasher Sport Power Mountain Chair.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
that
heard
Michael,
sounds
good.
nice.
have you done that at all? Any kind of hand cycling or?
No, other than the exercise ones for home.
Mm-hmm.
It's stationary hand cycle. But no, I've seen them. I've known a couple guys with them. But as a quad, to carry it around, get it in and out of a vehicle, get
That's
in and
tough.
out of the bike and all that stuff. I just don't have the transfer ability for that, so it's not really been an option. But it's funny,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys, bike riding is one of the things that hits a nerve. It could be the last bike I rode was a 10 speed from Kmart way back
Yeah.
in the late 70s, and so it was the bikes have got so nice nowadays. Mountain
Yeah,
bikes with God knows how many gears nowadays, and the equipment is just so awesome, and we can't use it, so it gets a little frustrating. But
Yeah.
you have to let that go too, and just you know let everyone else have their fun and try and be a part of it. You know,
Do you
yeah,
have any
um,
hobbies or particular
yeah.
interests that you've been doing
I
over
know.
the years?
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram photography and video, but yeah, talk about your hobbies, and we're going to be wrapping up, so I'd love to hear about it.
okay, yeah. I've always been a photo guy my whole life, and so cameras. Again, I did the radio and TV broadcasting stuff, so I've always had a video camera since then. But also regular DSLRs, and I just use a remote shutter in my mouth to
Hmm.
shoot photos, and uh, even our phones now are such good
Yeah.
cameras, and then put them in a special mount or something like that. Um, and video editing is so easy with computers and iPads and all that. So that, and also I started. I bought a drone about 6 years ago.
Yeah, I
So
saw
I've
it
got
on
a
your.
yeah. Oh, behind me on the box,
Yeah, I saw it
up
on
in the
your
shop.
shelf. I wanted to ask you about you.
Yeah, yeah. DJI's gotten a few $1,000s out of me, but yeah, I got into that whole world, and that's really how I got into YouTube. And
Hmm.
I enjoy that, especially with in summer for the most part. And you know, it's a flying camera. The flying part was fun at first. Now it's more a matter of where can I get that camera that I can't get personally, but
Hmm.
the camera can get there, take the video or take the photo, and get some shots that I would never otherwise get. So
Yeah,
if droning is a really good way for people in our position, if you can do it with the finger dexterity, to experience, photography up on a mountainside that you can't get to.
Hmm. Can
yeah,
we have Shawn put your YouTube channel in the description?
I think he was going to, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
He was going to, and you can announce it now. Your YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
Yep. It's CNY photo video. CNY stands for Central New York. So
Yeah,
CNY photo video. just all one word. And that's me, and it's a variety of things. And
Hmm.
but a lot of drone footage and stuff, and more to come. Hopefully soon.
So,
It's with
Nice.
although with nice weather here, I don't want to sit inside editing video. I want to get outside.
Well, I'm
You know.
I'm hoping I can look on your channel and maybe find a video you did about your gear and the kind of
Yeah.
mounts and things that you use.
There's one specifically about that. How do I
Great.
mount my controller on my chair? Because I don't have the dexterity to hold it and move the sticks and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
just using regular camera accessories, I made up a little rig, quick release clamps and all that stuff, and it's
Nice.
beautiful. So there's a specific video done to a James Bond theme that I did, and that's pretty cool. So I hope you do check it out. Hopefully it'll
yeah.
help you out.
Looking
And,
forward to it.
Yeah.
one last question before we kind of wrap up here. Did you play sports at all? Was that any part of your life? It was huge in mine, and it helped me, learn a lot from other quads watching them. Did you have other quads to learn from, or played sports like that and got to learn how to do certain things?
Yeah. Learning from other guys has been a big part of the whole thing. In sports, I got involved in the wheelchair basketball team. We stunk. I mean, we were the worst team in the state. We got beat by everybody, but we had fun. And then in about 1985, I did go to an open down near New York City with track and field stuff. And I did the shot put and the discus and club throw for our classification. The club throw is basically one of those mini baseball bats, and you just kind of whip it as far as you
Mm.
can. And I think I got uh, second in the shot and third in the disc or something like
Nice.
that. And I never even held one before. So I did pretty good. I was happy with that.
Great.
Just did
Nice.
it one time.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's great.
So
I don't think we should. We've had track and field kind of a little bit at our sports fest that we put on here, but no one really utilizes it. And it is a good avenue because there's so many events in the Paralympics for shot put and all those field sports that we don't think of. It's easy way to get into that. I've heard like where some of my friends are like, I'm a quad, I'm going to do shot put. Not too many guys do that. So, and they've
yeah.
gotten to the Paralympics where I tried the hardest avenue, quad rugby, and made it to tryouts, and that's it. So, it's tough to get in when you play the bigger sports, but it'd be nice for those field sports. So that's great.
Yeah. And it was more for fun, but I was surprised I did pretty well. And but there's so much. Table tennis is another really good one. You know,
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
Hey, Louis, do you
So
want to talk about Luis? Do you want to talk about our sponsors real quick? If Shawn, you want to put up mobility and mobility professionals and urology professionals?
Sure. So, everybody, our sponsors include Mobility Professionals. They are a DME provider, wheelchairs and accessories, and all kinds of adaptation equipment. And they're located here in Southern California and serve predominantly the Southern California area. And another division of them is Urology Professionals, which is a national wide company. They include the entire country, and they have all kinds of uh, products and experts and people to talk to. We're talking people who actually use the product and know the product. So if you have any problems at all, please reach out to mobility professionals and urology professionals. They're great people, and they're big sponsors of the community. And here at Live to Roll, we love them.
Yeah, and all their description is in the bio here. So click on their urology professionals if you're out of California, mobility professionals if you're here in Southern California. Support them because they support us, and really look out for the community and others who are in the same boat.
yeah.
Yep.
So before we wrap up, Mike, any last words of wisdoms before we go?
Well, it it feels like an accomplishment to make it this far, because I'm sure we've all known people who just didn't even make it 5 years in
Yeah.
our
Hmm.
wheelchair lives, and either they I've known people who drank themselves to death, smoked themselves to death, literally, and things like that. And I'm just still glad, this much later, to still be around, still be healthy,
Yeah.
still be in the game, so to speak. And I'm just, it's the way it is. It still sucks after this long,
Yeah.
but it's life is still very enjoyable, and you know, uh, who knows what the next few years will bring. Just keeping healthy, and the skin, and the stretching, and the urology stuff. That's skin and bladder. That's the two big
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah. And
um,
that's why one of our my other co-hosts today, Robert, with some bladder issues, and it's new to him. So he's like, after 49 years, he's like, what the heck? I never had to deal with
well,
it this much. So yeah, bladder is a big thing, and skin that I've been dealing with. Absolutely. I gotta get more meat
Mhm.
on these bones of mine and on my butt. So thinking about butt implants. No, I'm kidding. You know, I was thinking of it the other day going, if the Kardashians are putting those things in their butts, why can't I protect my? I think it
If
would be
if you need a donor, I got plenty of butt back here.
there you go. Not a problem. So I want to thank everyone in our chat. Sarab, big shout out to Sarab, Hell Wheels, little donation of $4. Thank you so much. Not little, it's big. Anytime you help the show. Christina, yeah, she says she understands what we're all saying, hurting 87. So at 13, you know what it's like growing up, aging with a
Hmm.
disability. So glad you can join us. And then we got Relax and Rewind. And I think Quad Life was here. Andrew, Hector, and Dominic, and Relax and Unwind. So thank you very much for joining us. Check us out in 2 weeks. This Tuesday coming up will be our regular guide show, Quads with Shawn and Tom, every Tuesday at 3:30. Next Thursday is our women's show with Brianna. And don't forget, every Wednesday, Gaming with Tom. Tom's been rolling with that gaming. I checked him out last night. Don't know what the heck he was doing, but he was gaming, so looking like he was having fun. And check us out. We're the second and fourth Thursday of every month. So thanks so much, Mike, for joining us. I really appreciate
yeah,
you staying up a little late in your neck of the woods. Not that late, but I know it's
yeah,
3 hours ahead of us. So, but thank you for joining us.
yeah. Thanks for the invite, and really nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Michael. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yep, you're welcome.
All right. Take care, everyone. Live to roll.
Live the role.